From Variety, celebrating more than 118 years covering the business of entertainment, this is the Award Circuit Podcast. Seth Rogen dyed his hair platinum blonde for his Apple TV comedy Platonic. Has it recovered yet?
No, it fritzed my hair out completely and thinned it significantly, and I think it is like just now returning to a more normal state. I was already going bald. I think it accelerated the process, though, definitely.
I'm Michael Schneider, and on this episode of the award-winning Variety Award Circuit Podcast, we talk to Seth Rogen about Platonic, his charitable foundation, his new series parodying Hollywood, and much more. Also on this episode, we chat with Fargo star Lamorne Morris about the fate of his character in that series, as well as his ubiquitous presence these days as a Bake spokesperson and his role in the upcoming movie about the original Saturday Night Live cast. It's all next on this edition of the Variety Award Circuit Podcast. Stay close. Co-created, directed, and co-written by Nick Stoller and Francesca Del Banco, Platonic stars Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne as a pair of former best friends approaching midlife who reconnect after a long rift. The duo's friendship takes them on some crazy adventures and disrupts their relationships with others. But don't worry, as the title says, it's all completely platonic.
Look at that. I want that.
The dog?
No, not the W hanging off the collar. W, Will. I'm Will. That stands for Will.
That's sterling silver. $50.
Wow.
$50.
Sterling silver?
Deal. Sterling silver.
Really?
$50.
Okay.
Come on, look at that.
Okay.
You got a deal, sir.
Sold. Thank you.
Go on and get it now.
Pardon me?
I'm not taking anything from Rustler.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. I would like a refund. Oh, come on, man. You just took my money. Like, just then.
Yo. Got this.
I can't steal. I'm a married woman. I have 3 children. I can't get attacked by a Doberman.
Why did you come out tonight?
I wanted to see you, catch up.
No. That is not why you came out. You came out to have fun.
I did.
So why don't we have fun? Let's do it. Come on. Your kids will think it's cool if their mother's missing an ear.
Please. No. Come on.
Just you calm the beast as I approach.
How? What shall
Just, I don't know.
Ring around me, Rosie, pocket birdie post.
Come in a room now. That's not helping, okay? Just do something else.
Hi, sweet girl. Hi. I paid for this.
Stay. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Seth Rogen recently stopped by to talk about Platonic and what the show did to make clear that they would not turn into a romantic relationship. We also discussed his evolution in the business, his busy roster that includes everything from The Boys and Invincible to another Apple TV Plus show, and what a season 2 of Platonic might look like. I began by noting the uniqueness of TV awards season, where we're still talking about a show in Platonic that premiered a full year ago.
It's true. I don't understand how it works. I feel like White Lotus season 1 and 2 were in simultaneous competition with one another at some point last year.
And you're gonna, for example, you're up against season 2 of The Bear, even though season 3 will be out by the time we're voting for season 2.
Didn't season 2 already win?
No, that was season 1 that already won.
Wait, what?
Even though it won after season 2. See, this is the confusing thing of calendars and time and space.
I don't get any of it. You know what? Why? I like that there's just a perpetual. It creates just a perpetual. It creates a perpetual television award season, which is nice.
Yeah, and it's. I guess in a way, it's kind of a long tail because people, I'm sure, are still, for example, discovering Platonic.
Yeah, I'm very confused by all of it, but it's lovely. You know what? As someone who made comedic films for many years and was, and since there's not really categories for comedic films in award shows.
Yeah.
It's nice to now make comedic television and get to do podcasts about award shows. It's a whole new leap for me in my career, which I'm thrilled about.
Exactly.
So I view it all as positive, and it's lovely, you know.
Yeah. No, it's better that they say than people not talking about things.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you have, I mean, there are so many different shows that you could talk about this award season, since you have your fingers in a little bit of everything. And I also know
Me too.
and that sounded wrong, sounded dirty, but very much in the vein of Platonic. But at the same time, this also giving you opportunity to talk about some of the other things you're up to. Like you and your wife just announced sort of a new initiative with your Hilarity for Charity. So that's kind of cool too, that you're able to use this platform to talk about, real stuff.
It is nice. We just launched a brain health education program called HFCU that stars people on TV shows that will probably prevail throughout, bringing it back to award season. Quinta Brunson's in one of them, Maitreyi Ramakrishnan, Kristen Bell. And here's a funny thing for variety listeners, people who are like celebrity culture. We did a scientific study where we proved definitively that people receive educational information and process it better from famous people than they do from like doctors and stuff like that. And it's like a published study that we did, and that is why, and because part of the question was, as we create brain health education, should we have doctors do it, the people who actually know the information, or should we have celebrities be the ones who deliver it? And the answer definitively is celebrities.
But what do you make of that?
I don't know. I really don't. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I like it.
So,
I saw it as a big win over the medical community.
Seth Rogen may not be a doctor, but he plays one on television.
But it's proven you will listen to me more than one.
Yeah. I will say, even bringing it back to Platonic, seeing you, in sort of the brew pub and creating beers the way you do, it inspires me to actually want to do the same. Which is
a lot of people do it. I've had a lot of if I go to the arts district, I have a lot of men who resemble my character in Platonic come up to me and explain that they too make beer and that I should try it.
And they all have bleached blonde hair.
A lot of them do. There was a time, every once in a while, a guy with like bleached blonde hair and like a charm necklace and a loud Hawaiian shirt will come up to me and be like, "I love the show," and I'm like, "I bet you did."
Yeah. Has your hair recovered from a year ago when you did it? Was that a year ago or even longer that you shot that?
It was longer than a year ago that we actually shot the show. I think we shot the show like 18 months ago, maybe something like that.
Sort of when the pandemic was still a real thing.
Yeah, we were. Yes, it was during the pandemic that the show was shooting, and it fritzed my hair out completely and thinned it significantly, and I think it is like just now returning to a more normal state. I was already going bald. I think it accelerated the process, though. Definitely.
Yeah. But you would do it again.
Mm-hmm. I am doing it again in the summer. Yeah.
So what are people asking you about the most when it comes to Platonic? Because I know the generic question is always the men and women, can they be friends, etc. Blah blah blah. But but there are those moments in watching the show where you sort of fear that the show is going down that road, and then thankfully it never does. But I'm sure you hear from a lot of people too who are like, "Thank God!" Like there was a moment or two where I felt like they could have gone that direction.
Yeah. To us, it's funny because like we really did everything in our power to make people have that thought as little as humanly possible. But I think what's funny is just like anything with a man and a woman, you assume it's going to happen as much as we try to signal. And the fact that it was like a fear that bubbled up every now and then, but did not like hang over the whole show. And it wasn't like the thing that the show was about. It wasn't like a will they, won't they, you know what I mean? I think it's something that's, again, it's like your brain unavoidably goes there just because it's like conditioned to, I think, narratively.
Years of film and TV.
You're just used to watching a thing on a screen with a man and a woman like that. And like they end up getting together. Like, your brain, it's like a sense memory thing, you know? And so, to me and Rose and Nick and everybody, Francesca, it was very important that like, we just, that was as little tension as possible. And we knew there would be some tension there, again, just from like conditioning. But it wasn't a note we wanted to play, you know. It wasn't like a color we wanted to overwhelm the picture with. It was if anything, something we knew was unavoidable, but we wanted it to be as, you know, as non-stressful as possible for people.
Well, I think because people had also seen you two as an actual couple in Neighbors, that
it's true. There's some bleed over there as well. Yeah, you're used to seeing us, and we're like a good couple in Neighbors. So I think people like project that onto us as well. And I think in the show, there's probably some sense that's like, maybe we would make a good couple because we do seem to get along well, and also not well at other times. But again, I think to us, like, it's like one of those things that, like, you know, you're juggling and you're trying not to, you know, let it overwhelm things. And it's like a flavor it's like a flavor, you know, is there, but you're trying to make people not afraid of it, you know? And I think especially because it doesn't happen, it's a, you know, if it is a concern, it's a relief. And if it's not a concern, then we're just playing into what you think is going to happen.
Well,
anyway.
I think the saving grace is that Luke McFarlane's character, Charlie, is such a sort of likable husband.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you see him and he's the most understanding husband in the world.
Yeah, he's super likable and nice and understand exactly. And I think we worked hard to not like play into these like kind of traditional tropes of like people who don't communicate well and people who don't understand each other and people who are unable to find common ground and people who create. Like, you need conflict for comedy, but I think like conflict that's like contrived from like relationship issues is like something that's very overdone. And I think if anything, like just a lot of like people in unhappy relationships, like writing television shows and like dumping it onto to the viewer, you know. But, you know, me and a lot of the people I know are in like very good relationships and there isn't a lot of conflict and therefore like to impose conflict onto those things is like, it's just not something that we have been particularly interested in. You know what I mean? Not that it's not like a valid thing to explore. It's just not the thing that like we found interesting to explore. You know? Yeah.
And I think that's why this show is so relatable to so many more people who aren't dealing with weird love triangles. They're just dealing with middle age.
Exactly.
And dealing with all this stuff where, you know, especially Rose's character in going back to work and you know, the relationships that you just have in middle age. It's so relatable.
Yeah, I think that to me was what was really funny about it and interesting, is that it was tapping into this, you know, it was aging with us is something that I also liked about it. And it's something that I've thought about before, you know, is like by the nature of me being in a lot of the things that I'm a part of making, and that I am creatively putting my energy into. It's like as I get older, the material naturally is aging with me. You know what I mean? And when I was in my 20s, we were making things about people in their 20s. When I was in my 30s, we're making things about people in their 30s. I'm in my 40s, and we're making things about people in their 40s. You know, and so I think, that to me was what was really interesting and appealing about it. Is like it I don't have kids, but I'm also married, so I kind of fall between probably the characters in the show a little bit, which is why I also find it like incredibly relatable. I know people that are single and are divorced who are my age and who are living like out like the things that, you know, my character goes through. I know people with kids who are getting older and kind of a little more self-sufficient and they're at this point where they have to like kind of decide what they want to do with this next chapter of their lives. And I mean, all that has enough inherent conflict and comedy built into it. That you don't need to have people like, you know, like getting in fights for like leaving the toilet seat up.
There's exactly. There's even sort of the entrepreneurial aspect of it. And, you know, you're someone who's built businesses like Houseplant, and here you are playing a character who's trying to build a business as well. So that must have also been kind of interesting to think about the business of, you know, building this brewery and your character.
Definitely. I mean, I think that, again, it's all very, in some ways, exaggerated for my own personality on the show, but also a production company making movies and television. Though I think there is this constant conflict of, and it's a thing on the show that like, my character like just doesn't care about the financial side of things. It is like truly driven by the artistry of it all, and also like wanting to seem interesting and cool and like being like materialistic in that way, you know, and wanting to, you know, stand out and have a reputation, you know, and all that stuff is is very personal and stuff that I've been very guilty of over the years, and something that is like a constant conflict in my life is, one that plays out is playing out right now in my life is how much, do you play by the rules with the people who, are financially responsible for the things you're doing? How much do you just plow through and try to do the thing that you think is interesting, and how much do you alienate the people that you are working with and that trust you to be reasonable, to not bring a whole thing crashing down? I mean, all that stuff is stuff that, I've dealt with a lot over the years.
Especially maturing and having a business now. And do you look back at the you from 25 years ago and think like, I wish I could be that guy again? Or do you think, wow, man, that guy did not know what's going on?
I don't know. I mean, it's funny. Like I'm just very different now, and everything's different now. So I think there are some things from me back then that are probably things I could tap more into, and I think there's a lot of things from me back then that are very stupid and that I should not should not be tapping into. But I think overall, like, I actually think like I learn and move very fast. And sometimes I even look back at things I said like a month ago and I'm like, what was I thinking? You know what I mean? And so I am try to be someone who really acknowledges when they're wrong, and it's hard. And I often have a lot of initial resistance to it. And I really try to think like, why am I so resistant to this thing? It's probably because it's true or bothering me in some way, but it's, I think younger me was not equipped to deal with the things that older me is dealing with, and I've seen with my own career, like digging in on things that maybe weren't the right thing. Choosing your battles, I think, is something I've gotten better at over the years, and when to really fight and when to kind of let it wash over you. You know?
When were you wrong? What comes to mind when you think about that?
I mean, I think I've been wrong about, again, I don't even think it's like specific, like creative choices. I think it's more like how I chose to deal with the opposition to those choices at times. You know what I mean? Marketing is where it mostly culminates, is like in the trailers and the posters and all that stuff. I'd say and it's honestly like one of the reasons I became a producer was to try to get some say in how our work was presented to the world. Like if you write a good, at least in movies and stuff, like if you write a good script, you get good directors and actors, like they kind of leave you alone, but like once the movie is getting released in the world, that's where like a lot of opinions come into play and where you can really lose control of something, and so that's why I kind of became a producer, and that is still the thing that I would say creates the most conflict in my day-to-day life, probably. You know what I mean? Not to say production doesn't have issues, but and I think in the past I've done poorly in choosing my battles, choosing how to communicate those battles, knowing how to win over the people that I ultimately need on my side to accomplish these things that we all want to accomplish, which is to have a thing that a lot of people see. You know what I mean? And I think I've gotten better at. Hopefully, there's people who work with me now, maybe listening to this, like laughing their asses off as they drive to work. But I hope I've gotten better at navigating that stuff.
The Zenner, Seth Rogen.
I don't know about that. I think choosing my battles.
Choosing the battles.
I still have the same amount of rage. I just funnel it into fewer things.
Well, you do have a new show coming that you and Evan are doing in the studio, where you can sort of channel some of your feelings about this industry and where this industry is going, and maybe even have some fun with just this, the confusion, what is going on with this business now. Is that an opportunity to kind of give your sort of spin on just where we're going and what's going on with this mass disruption we're experiencing?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we noticed a changing tide in the industry, and just there is a lot of confusion and panic, and I'm not like as like bleak on things as I think some people are. Like,
yeah, there are some people who are saying like Hollywood's done, lock it up, we're over.
Yeah, like I think people still like movies. Like last year, lots of movies did very well. Like I think if movies were going to go away, they would have a long time ago. Like they're pretty old. There's been a lot of things that could potentially replace them. You know what I mean? And people seem to like them. It's like paintings. Paintings are still around. You know what I mean? People still go to museums. There's things flashier and more quote unquote like interesting than oil on canvas, but people still like flock from all over the world enough to keep museums open. For example, you know what I mean?
Exists.
And not a ton of people have to like movies to keep theaters thriving, to keep movies going. Like it's always been a very small percentage of the population that actually goes and sees movies. You know what I mean? And so I think if anything, people are just more aware of that gap, like how few people actually were keeping movies culturally relevant. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, the show is very much about the panic that we see in the industry, and it's about a studio. So it's about people who are really struggling and to find the way in this environment. And it is like, I would say the most common trait we see among people who work on the executive side of things is panic, sheer panic, which a true sense that at any moment it could all come crashing down for them personally, at least,
because a lot of times it's true.
Because it's 100% true, you know what I mean? And we've seen it. We've seen people come and go. We pitch shows to people. This show, we pitched to a place, and like literally between the time we pitched it and like the next day, like the person we pitched to was fired. Yeah. And like you had no sense that would, like, no one thought that was going to happen. Like as we were, you know what I mean? Like that's how fast it was. And then what's funny is like that was a joke in the pitch. Like, and so we've seen. Yeah, like I think it is for us very fun to be able to hopefully, make the whole world understand. Like, and to me, that's like the point of comedy is like to take a thing that you personally think is funny and interesting and translating it in such a way that a huge audience also thinks it's funny and interesting. And I think to you probably relate that like the behind the scenes antics of especially the executive side of Hollywood
I'm looking forward. Yeah, I mean, not only because of just the subject, but the cast. I mean, you're in it, Catherine O'Hara, Catherine Hahn, Ike Barinholtz. I mean, this is Murderer's Row.
It's really great. And we have a ton of amazing guest stars that I won't announce yet, but like we've a lot of people in the industry, directors, writers, actors, like are themselves on the show as well. And it really exists in our actual world of Hollywood, which is a very fun thing to get into. But yeah, it was largely based on our frustration with the industry.
I would tell you a funny thing is by the time we're recording this, by the time people actually hear this podcast, Paramount will probably have a new owner.
Yeah, it's interesting. They greenlit Ninja Turtles right before that, though. So we'll see how that goes.
So at least you're still doing that.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. It was one of those things where like we should do like how hard do we work on this for the time being?
Let's just wait and see.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, and I think what's nice is like we've always been somewhat agnostic to like who is giving us the money, you know what I mean? And even like with television, like I'm always explaining to, like the slightly younger people that I work with that like when I was young, it was like TV and movies were like not on the same level. Like when we were doing for like Freaks and Geeks, like all we wanted to do was be in movies. And when we were making For Your Virgin and stuff, it was just like, there was like movies were up here, TVs was down there. And that was it. And now that is not at all the case. Colin Farrell, on a TV show, Robert Downey Jr.'s on a TV show. Like there is no limit between fame and success and whether or not there's no, correlation, and so that's something that honestly to us was very good news in a lot of ways. And if the movie industry, it's a little harder at times to get these mid-budget movies that we are used to making made, then it's like, great, we'll go to Apple, we'll make TV shows. Like it's fine, we can also make movies. I'm sure it'll be back in a few years. We just made a deal with Universal, so like it's great. Like they're very incentivized to make theatrical films, you know what I mean? So it all turned out well in the end. But like to us, there was no, if anything, there was a lot of opportunities. They were just different, and you had to be kind of nimble and willing to take an idea like Platonic, which maybe would have been a movie 6 years ago, but now it's like, let's make it a TV show, you know?
And you could tell more stories. I mean, you look at, The Boys, another good example. I mean, that could have been a film, but it
was
ends
going
up
to be
being
for many, many years. And it was, I mean, that's a funny one because we actually got Sony and Original to like option it in the first place because me and Evan were fans of Garth Ennis and bought the comic, and we literally bought it the day it came out, the first comic, and I'm sure we were the only people to buy it and bring it to, we totally brought it to Neil and Amy, and we were like, this is amazing. You guys should option this right away. We were already trying to get Preacher, and they were like, yo, you're right, this is amazing. And then they bought it, and then they hired like 50 people who were not us to develop it into movies for the next decade. It's like, I don't know what happened. It kind of just felt, it never worked out. It never came into fruition. There was a million different, Adam McKay was attached, I think it was. There was a million different people that were supposed to do it. And we were just waiting, and we're very patient and nimble. We are patient and nimble. I would say those are our two best traits. And we don't take things personally. And so like, even though they said no to us for 10 years, when they finally were like, okay, you guys could have a shot at it, we were enthusiastically there to do it. And we were more than happy to try to turn it into a television show, which at the time felt really like the perfect format for something like that, because they were making these big, kind of bigger, more expensive visual effects, heavy. Game of Thrones had come out, things like that. So it was things like Game of Thrones that we were like, oh, this could be like if you applied that kind of, like scope and to something that's like a subversive superhero thing, that could be like really popular, you know? So it's, to us, it's, honestly, like, there's a lot of ideas. Future Man was actually the first one. That was a movie, and everyone said no, and then we turned it into a TV show, and it went great, and we loved it. And so, like, to us, this idea of taking movies and making them TV shows, taking them TV shows and making them movies, like, and being nimble and kind of going where the gravity is pulling at any given moment has been like a real key to us making a lot of stuff, basically, you know. And it's a similar thing with Invincible. That was like originally optioned as a movie, and then it kind of turned into it was like simultaneously a TV show that now is affecting the movie. And it's really, I think it's cool.
Yeah, it just means everything feeds off each other, so it just means more, and you can do more now, and spin-offs of spin-offs. And
some people can. I mean, but also it's way harder to get stuff made. And like, you speak to the cast of, I mean, Platonic, like, had me and Rose and like Nick, and like that's why that show got sold. And like we, and like we went out with our studio show with me and Catherine O'Hara and like a big cast attached to it. And like, truthfully, like, that is one of the things that is like conversely incredibly hard about TV right now, is like, if you don't, like, because the Robert Downey Jr.'s and Colin Farrell's and everything are doing it, unless you have some people like that, like, it's really hard to sell something, because everyone's like, well, I could have the most famous people. So, well,
and what's funny is now you're finding that suddenly the streamers are like, hey, what about those like procedurals that aired for 22 episodes on broadcast? Why can't we do one of those? Remember ER? And so they're starting to do some of those too, realizing that, hey, maybe that model worked.
It'll all just go back to normal broadcast television.
With ads. They're bringing back the ads as well.
Slow. I was just listening about Tubi and how well it's doing. You know what I mean? People don't care about watching ads. I watch YouTube with ads all the time. Like, I think people are like, it gives people a chance to look at Instagram for a few minutes.
Exactly. Ads are back. What else are you excited about coming up? I know as we're recording this, you've got your Seth Rogen Smokes the Bowl coming to Netflix as a joke. You have your fingers in every streamer, by the way. You're working with everyone.
I think I really, I'm agnostic to whose money I take to do the things that I want to do.
If the check clears,
I'm more than, and a lot of them are really. Yeah, like Ted, honestly, is like a lovely, a true movie fan and a true comedy fan, and so like he's an easy person to do something with every now and then, and like we've never had like a meaningful show or movie on Netflix or something, so it's nice to get to. I like Robbie Praw a lot, the guy who does their comedy. Like, I think it's nice to get to know these different people, and it is good research for our television show. Everyone's afraid to talk to us now is the only problem. Right. Everyone knows that we're kind of looking at them maybe slightly with a more analytical
Either
eye.
that or they want to guest stars themselves. So I could see a few of them. So you've got that coming. What else are you excited about coming up?
What else are you excited about? The Boys, new season premieres this year.
Yeah.
A new Invincible season, I think, is airing right now and wrapping up. We're going to shoot another season of Platonic at the end of this year.
Yeah, so let's real quick about that, because the show did end kind of like on a nice note. Everything seemed to be wrapped up, and both characters were kind of off successfully in their own direction. How do you bring them back together? What are your thoughts on how season 2 might look?
I think it's naive to think that my character remotely is able to get his life together in as seamless a way as we implied. That was a big part of it. Is I think it's like, and it is nice, and truthfully, like, we wanted to have a nice ending, but in our heads, even as we were doing it, we were like, this, like, we were coming up with ways to keep it going. You know what I mean?
Right. And you're right in that he's with this woman at the Johnny's. Whatever is
Johnny Rebs.
Johnny Rebs, yeah.
She seems too good for me,
but she also seems a little off. So I could see that relationship falling apart.
Yes, exactly. I think that's a direction that we've talked about. And it really is like, because to me it is like, it's funny. One of the things I kept thinking about as we were making it was like Sidney Pollack's character in Husbands and Wives.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, it was like a modern retelling of that guy, and that guy's like such a disaster and is never going to be happy. And even in that movie, in the end, like, he gets back together with his wife who he left, and they both cheat on each other. And like, I don't think you leave that movie being like, they're going to be great forever.
Problem solved.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
Like, I think this idea of these guys who are just never quite settled and who are not at peace, and who, it's funny because, like, when I was younger, I kind of viewed this like that, like, older single men were incapable of like getting a relationship. And then as you get older, like, you realize, oh, these older single men are just incapable of like maintaining a relationship. Like, women will date them, women will sleep with them, women will move in with them. Like, it's that, like, I thought, like, they're not like repellent at face value. They're people who have like emotional issues that end relationships and make it impossible for them to like truly be a good partner, and that to me is like, again, it's kind of just like an insight I didn't really gain until I was older, and something that I find interesting, and something that I think this show is like an interesting way to explore that mentality.
That certain kind of person who we all know. We all have friends who are that person.
Yeah, and again, I think in my naive head, it was like, oh, like, you're single because you're older, because like no one will date you. But it's like, oh no, lots of women will date these guys. They just ruin it every time.
Yeah.
Or they're just dating the wrong women because they know that that's what won't work, and they're subconsciously, creating drama in their lives, or sabotaging things, or creating villains in their lives, or, creating dynamics that allow them to feel good or bad, given whether they want sympathy or praise. You're
kind of doing a service.
I hope
Platonic
so.
is doing a service. Maybe some folks are watching it right now and looking in the mirror. Like everything you're doing these days, there is a service.
There is a service to it.
this stage of Seth Rogen's career. So, well, congratulations on everything, Seth.
Thank you.
Again, like you've I don't know how you do it. You've got
I don't have
things going on. That is, by the way, as someone who does, I tell you, like I'm exhausted just even looking at what you're doing. But
I have 4 more hours in every day than so I get a lot done during that time.
That's Seth Rogen, star and executive producer on Platonic. Catch up on season 1 via Apple TV+. After the break, we talk to Fargo star Lamorne Morris. From Los Angeles, this is the Award Circuit Podcast. And we're back. It's the Variety Award Circuit Podcast, and I'm Michael Schneider. In the 5th season of FX's Fargo, Lamorne Morris plays North Dakota State Trooper Whit Farr, as the show's escalating drama revolves around Minnesota housewife Dorothy Lyon, played by Juno Temple, who's on the run from her abusive ex-husband Roy Tillman, played by John Hamm. Morris's character plays a pivotal role in the season's penultimate episode, as Roy is finally catching up to Dot, or Nadine, her old name, which is what Roy exclusively calls her. In the episode, the question of whether or not she can avoid him shifts to how she can escape him.
Mrs. Lyon.
No,
That's not...
A little far from home, aren't you?
You need something, Trooper?
Everything all right?
She's fine.
Just took a spill is all. Finishing up some paperwork and then...
Heading home. Right? How we doing there, Kim?
Back to Minnesota, you're saying?
I'm...
Oh, Nadine's gonna spend some time with us here now.
That's your idea? Because I can drive you home. My shift's over.
We should go.
Mrs. Lyon, Dorothy, I can help.
Son, the lady said it's no concern to you.
I heard her. But see, I was drawn into a chain of events last time Mrs. Lyon was kidnapped.
Kidnapped?
That never happened.
Oh.
See, son, I'm the sheriff in this county. I know you're not sitting here telling me I'm a suspect in some imaginary crime, so move out of my way before I move you.
Listen to me. You don't have to go with him. I can have backup here in 10 minutes.
Well, that's gonna be too late.
Surprise.
I recently met up with Lamorne Morris to talk about what happens to his character in Fargo, and spoiler alert, this is Fargo and not everybody lives. We also chat a bit about his spokesman role for BMO Bank, as well as reminisce about his time with Prince on New Girl, and also his recent gig playing Saturday Night Live's Garrett Morris, no relation, in the upcoming film SNL 1975. We began with me ribbing him a bit for suddenly being everywhere.
I'm trying. That's always the plan. You want to be busy enough where you don't get stir crazy, but you also, want to have some breaks here and there. I'm a dad, so my daughter doesn't give a shit about
how old is she?
She's 3.5.
Oh yeah, so she's in that very much. Really has no idea what you do.
Idea. Well, I'll take that back. To be fair, I was shooting something not too long ago, and here in LA, and so whenever my daughter gets in trouble at school, they send her home a little early, and so then she has to come to work with daddy. Yeah, and she's now quite accustomed to being on set, where she will just, when the AD will say quiet on set or rolling, she will start to let everyone know that it's time to be quiet on set. So much so that she's now the loud one. She won't stop screaming, quiet on set. So we have to.
So you have a future director already in the house.
Oh, absolutely. I want her to be some sort of creative. Yeah, I think,
Well, and I got to say, maybe she doesn't quite know what you do, but there's been a period of time lately where your face has been all over Los Angeles at the very least. And who knows, maybe the rest of the world too. But as a spokesperson for, as I learned, it's not BMO, it's BMO.
Yeah, it's BMO. It's BMO. With BMO, we have over 40,000 fee-free ATMs.
Ka-ching! You just made another couple grand.
I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. Private school is expensive. No,
but nonetheless, you were charged with introducing an entire new bank to the greater Southern California area. So suddenly you were everywhere on billboards and advertisements.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere. I see it. My daughter sees it too. That's the weird thing. When I'm driving her to school in the morning, I'll just hear, "Hey, it's Daddy." And it got to, originally when she would do that, initially I would kind of go, what is she talking about? And then I would notice a billboard. Now when she says it, I'm just assuming there's a bus stop where my face is on it or something. You know what I mean?
It's just old hat for her again. She just expects that daddy is going to be on the side of a bus.
Yes.
Pimping some bank.
Hey, listen, I look at her and I go, this is how you eat.
Yes.
This
is college right here.
Exactly. So embrace it now.
Yeah. And ironically, all my money is at Bank of America. But
it's funny how that works. No, I bank with BMO. I bank with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's the BMO Stadium. I'm sure you get some great seats there.
Oh my gosh. I went to see Messi play. And that was fantastic because I think prior to that, the only soccer matches I'd ever gone to was when I was a kid and I was playing in them.
Yeah.
That's it. And I hadn't gone to a professional one And what a game to go to. So yeah, BMO, they definitely hook it up. So if anybody wants to go to a game, call me.
Lamorne.
Please call me.
He's got the hookup.
I do.
Well, your daughter, I'm sure, will kind of get to that soccer age pretty soon, and then suddenly you're going to be there on the sidelines on a Saturday morning.
Yes,
and looking at your phone. And
yes. If I could encourage her to go into basketball, I would. You know what I mean? I think now's a great time for women's basketball, and I think it's going to
this is the time.
I think at some point, hopefully, when she is of age, it'll be the same. You know what I mean? And so I definitely want her to go into that. I'm obsessed with basketball. Basketball is my number one passion in life. And so I would die if she wanted to play basketball.
Yeah. Who's your team?
Well, I'm a player first guy.
Okay,
My team is the Bulls. That's my team. It'll always be my team, the Chicago Bulls. But LeBron James is my guy.
Yeah.
So LeBron could play for the Timberwolves next season, and you'll see me with the Timberwolves jersey on. That's just how I roll.
As long as it says James on the back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, my son just told me that he and his friends just had this debate on the playground, because I guess the kids still debate on the playground. That's still a thing.
Really?
I guess so, because it's 1964 right now.
Whoa.
But they were doing the whole GOAT thing, the whole LeBron versus Jordan.
Yeah.
So as a Bulls fan,
I know, and I here's the thing: I'm not going to argue against Michael Jordan being the GOAT. I'm not, because I grew up watching Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
I cried when he retired, both times.
Yeah.
I met Michael Jordan once when I was 22. I shook his hand and I cried. So Michael Jordan is a gold standard for me.
Yeah.
But I think LeBron James is just a little bit better overall. So I think LeBron James is the greatest player of all time. But when people argue for Michael Jordan, I go, you're making a lot of sense. But I have my arguments for LeBron.
You know what's so funny about that? So my son is a tremendous Lakers fan. So you would think he would pick LeBron.
Yeah.
But he actually picked Jordan.
How old is your son?
So he's 18.
What? He's 18 and he's still, oh gosh.
Because he didn't grow up during the Jordan era, but he just knows there's that mystique that sort of still surrounds it.
That's what I would say about Michael Jordan. He built this mystique around him that people use that as a point for Mike as far as basketball goes. And I go, no, that's mystique. You gotta put some of that on the creators of his shoes, Nike, Gatorade, Hanes, all these things that boosted him to this level. It has nothing to do with him playing. I mean, yeah, he had to be good in order to get those endorsements. But like when you have a commercial called I Believe, like I want to be like Mike. When you have those, it's like it adds to the legacy a little bit.
Yeah. And then the doc, I think, helped as well.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Poor Scottie Pippen.
So speaking of you playing basketball, I forget, and we may have talked about this before back in the New Girl days, but refresh my memory. Did you get a chance to play with Prince when you were shooting with him, or
no? I did not. It would have been weird to play that day because he was wearing heels with lights in them, so I'm sure he wouldn't know.
Isn't that when he played ball with heels, right?
He did. But I would have broke his ankles. I'm not gonna lie to you, and I would have had no qualms about it. But no, I didn't get a chance to play with him. He was. I did get a chance to perform in front of him in a weird way. Like he one of his backup dancers or a member of his crew, they were going to put a shot on them, one line or a reaction or something to what he's doing, and then they run off. And he said, Lamorne, is there any way you could teach her how to look surprised? I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, in this scene, she comes out and she sees me and she looks surprised and then she runs away. And he's like, can you teach her how to look surprised? I was like, sure. And he goes, okay, do it now. And I went, what do you mean? And he sits down on the couch and wants me to do it 10 feet in front of him and teach her how to look surprised. And when I tell you, I'd never been more nervous in my life. And I've performed with amazing actors, great directors, in front of crowds of tons of people. This was the most nerve-wracking experience I've ever had in my entire life because it's Prince.
Yeah.
And it's like a one-on-one show for him. I thought it was a little weird, but it was nerve-wracking. And I did it. It turned out to be great. Yeah. So, I was being silly in New Girl fashion, but he appreciated it.
Yeah. That's that is a moment.
Yes, yes, it is.
And I think about how special that was for you guys, because obviously Prince did not do much in terms of TV or anything.
I know.
And still, the fact that you guys had that experience with him is crazy.
It was so weird. That show definitely brought a lot of. I have a lot of memories from that show, and it set up my experiences for other shows and my expectations for other shows.
Yeah.
We had it great on that show. Everybody loved each other. Everybody got along. It was so fun. The amount of people that loved the show, that wanted to be a part of the show, Taylor Swift, we had Olivia Rodrigo on the show. Obviously Prince, athletes, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's nuts. Rob Reiner, Jamie Lee Curtis, the list goes on and on and on. So for me, it's kind of like every experience you want to have in this business when you grow up and you want to be an actor happened on New Girl, and everything else is just kind of icing on the cake.
Yeah. And it's a show that people are still going back and binging and watching. So I'm sure you still probably get that a lot besides people asking you about BMO.
Yeah. It's usually New Girl, then BMO.
And then, of course, Fargo.
Oh, yes.
So...
Oh boy!
I mean, man, what a season!
Yeah.
Fargo, and I've told everyone involved with Fargo, like, it is back, baby, this season. I mean, just from the talent, from the cast to just the story, everything. And, there's always got to be the good guy who does not fare well when it comes to Fargo. And you got to be that guy.
Yeah, I did. I had a conversation with Noah before when I was doing press about it. I forgot if I knew that my character had this fate prior to joining the show or not. And I it wasn't until later on that I realized, no, I never got all the scripts. None of us did. So we knew we had an outline of what our arc was going to be, but we didn't know like what our fates were going to be. And I spoke with Noah, and he said, well, he couldn't come up with that conclusion until he realized what every performer was going to do and what he saw in every performer, and who would make the audience like feel more. You know what I mean? Because some of the actors in the show that you think should get the axe they don't because you kind of expect it, and the audience would go good, and it wouldn't really hit them. And then some of the protagonists in the show, some of the good folks in the show, were either putting themselves in positions where they shouldn't be. Wayne, for example, played by David Risdall, is one of the most fantastic actors I've ever worked with. He's so funny and so good. His character won't leave it alone. His wife keeps saying to him, honey, I just stop, ignore this. And he's like, no, but babe, I want to, and he ends up having some issues. If he dies, it's kind of like, damn it, we warned you, man, you're being an idiot.
And we kind of saw it
coming. But with my character, you didn't quite, and here's the thing, he's the only black guy. He's really the only black main character on the show in this town that is notorious for that, where it's like there's not that many black folks, especially in law enforcement. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way we're gonna kill this guy.
Right? Not in 2023, right? That's what they used to do it on.
Right. And the way he did it and who did it, it's a real blow to the audience.
Yeah.
And that was what Noah was going for.
Yeah.
Is you wanted them to feel it.
Yeah. Especially because you feel like everything's okay at that point. Yeah. Like, John Hamm's character's on the run, and like they're not going to kill him at this point, right?
Yeah, there's no way.
Wit is not good. Like, he has the upper hand, right?
Right.
And so the way it happens is just kind of
But initially I had some issues with it. I struggled with it because I thought, I've never died on camera. You know what I mean? What is this process like? I'm calling my acting coach. We're working through moments, and we're doing these things and these exercises, and then after, when you watch it, you go, this makes sense. This is the way it has to happen. Especially if you're a fan of Fargo, it's coming. You just don't know with who.
Yeah.
If you watch season 4, when Chris Rock got the axe, did not see that coming. I did not see that coming. Season 3, I want to say, Ewan McGregor's character, did not see that coming.
Yeah, that's the goal. Noah does a great job of that.
Did not see it coming. So I'm happy to be a part of the Fargo deaths.
Yeah, I guess belatedly, spoiler alert. Sorry for folks, but
sorry guys if you didn't know.
It's been on for a while now.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't watched it by now, no, I mean, again, Juno Temple just kicks ass, and you got some real fun scenes with her, especially in like the convenience store. Just some real like MacGyver stuff going on.
She was. She is brilliant. She's intense as well. So I just remember her always in character, always doing the Minnesota accent. She's from the UK, so she's got this strong, English accent, and having to switch in and out of it was mind blowing. And when I say intense, she's one of those actors that if you're sitting in lunch and you're just kind of in your own thoughts or whatever, and if you look over to the right, she's like staring a hole through you, and she's always connecting, and that's her process, and I learned a lot from her working with her in these scenes. We helped each other out with our characters. When we shot these scenes, that was the beginning of our shoot. You know what I mean? That was the beginning of us knowing each other, figuring out Noah's tempo, Noah's pace, Noah's tone, trying to put all that together. And, it was definitely a collaborative thing amongst actors as well. Because we're sitting there and we're talking about family, we're relating the characters, the people we know, and she's being open and vulnerable about, where she's coming from with it. Definitely helped me a lot, especially because my character has to repay this debt. And it fast forwarded a lot of my intentions in those moments. You know what I mean? Because you can go do all the homework you want to, and all the research and the backstory stuff that you want to, and the character breakdowns. But it's not until you sit across from this actor and realize what they're doing and what they're giving you and the energy that you're giving each other. That's when the real fun begins. And she is so intense that it made it rather easy for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because there is that mix of like a lot of these characters, this intensity, but so many of the actors, and Noah loves to do this. So you've watched from season 1 of Fargo, is he casts people who are oftentimes known more for being in comedies than they are in dramas, and so they bring sort of that rhythm to it, and that's sort of what brings so much of the absurdity out too.
Oh, absolutely.
There's so many of you on this cast have those comedic chops as well, and are able to kind of like do that back and forth in addition to a lot of the dramatic stuff.
Absolutely. Bob Odenkirk, was that season 1?
Yeah.
I mean, he's brilliant. You know what I mean? And it's not that you lose Bob Odenkirk, but you're watching Bob Odenkirk, but you're just smiling the whole time because you're going, damn it, this guy can do everything. But that's also the power of Noah. You know what I mean? Is he's just placing the words in front of you, and use your instinct to interpret it the way you will. And he's not hands off, but he's not micromanaging you at all. I remember a scene, obviously I'm coming in from a lot of comedic stuff in my background. And when I got the offer, I was kind of torn between how I wanted to play this character. And day 1 on set, day 1 was the hospital scene that I was in. And I remember Noah just walking past the hospital room, like the window, and just staring, and then walking away. And he would come and stare and then walk away. And finally I asked him, I said, hey man, what do you think? Because this is my first time speaking in this cadence with this rhythm, this tone, this accent. What do you think? And he goes, let's just say I do a pretty good job of casting. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because if I'm not saying anything, it's you're excellent.
Yeah.
He goes, and if you need some adjusting, I'll tell you. And I'm like, that's great. He's letting the actors play and find it, which I love.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, and you were mentioning this before, even the prep to play someone in Fargo, because it is the Midwest. You don't have to be at your thinnest at this moment.
Yes,
and you can kind of,
Oh, yeah. I wanted to, what I tell you, I was going for a Carl Winslow vibe. I wanted to be a little portly. I wanted it to be an officer that you can tell really is trying to help someone. Now, if I'm like jacked and shredded and in shape, it's kind of like, okay, this guy's a damn Navy SEAL. Like, of course he's gonna. but I wanted it to be a guy who kind of feels like he just wants to be left alone. But now he's in this situation where he's truly doing everything he can. And so I put on a little bit of weight. And as soon as we were done, I had to lose the weight for the SNL movie. And you know, it's been an interesting process.
As I said, when you're up there in Calgary, you can eat those Tim Horton donuts and kind of just, you know, let it go a little bit.
Listen, folks, if you have a chance to film in Calgary, do it. It is awesome. And I don't hear people talk about it enough. It's one of the best restaurants I've ever been to in my life are in Calgary, which was shocking, but it's true.
Yeah.
And I ate a lot.
It's a great vibe up there. I like that part of the world. But yeah, so the next thing, of course, is the SNL movie. So I mean, that's pretty cool. Playing Garrett Morris.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I got a chance to talk with him a bit, and I presented him an award at the ABFF, and had many phone calls with him.
No relation, of course.
No relation, but I used to tell, here's the funny thing, I used to tell people that he was my dad. His last name was Morris, and when you would watch Martin, his name would come up, Garrett Morris, and I would go, that's my daddy, you know. And I would.
And how many people believed you?
You know, when you're a kid, kids are stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah,
kids are stupid.
Some of them believed it. Really? Why are you poor? You know, so I had some explaining to do. But
that's wild serendipity, though, to end up playing the guy.
100%. 100%. And we had very similar struggles in the industry. What I mean by that is fitting in, having this imposter syndrome of, you know, do I belong here? Even though you're finding success, when you walk in certain rooms, you're kind of, you know, do I belong here? Is this for me? Is this, you know, do I vibe here? Do I blend in here? Garrett had a lot of that going on. And when I first got into this business, I did because, you know, it wasn't that I was afraid to be good at what I do or great at what I do. I just was shocked that, you know, when I would go on stage and perform, people would laugh. I would go, oh, and I would hit these steps and people would go, oh, you should be doing this. Yeah. And I go, wait, really? Because this is really hard to do. And I know I'm busting my ass to do it. But when you receive the accolades and you get the attention and you get the opportunities in the jobs, it's still to this day, I'm never jaded by it. I'm still grateful for every job that I'm given, every opportunity to play a character. And I don't know. Garrett had a lot of that growing. I mean, he has a Broadway background. He was a playwright. He went to Juilliard. You know, he performed, you know, La Traviata in Italian. You know, all these things that Garrett had going on. But when he got on SNL, he was like, do I belong here? He's like, these kids are all young. They're all really funny. I don't.
Right. And there's only so much cocaine I can do.
Oh my God. He did all the cocaine. He did all of it. And so in order to prep for this role, I
got some really good stuff. It's very 70s pure. No fentanyl involved. It's
straight from the source. Yeah. The cocaine plant. Yes. No. No, but it was great. It was great playing Garrett.
Yeah. You already wrapped or?
Just wrapped a couple days ago. Yeah, just a couple days ago.
I'm excited for this, by the way. I mean, anyone who grew up watching like SNL, I mean, I just missed that early period, but I still remember like them in movies and just how important that whole cast was.
Oh my gosh. Jason Reitman, oh my God, he's a genius. And he put together and wrote, him and his partner Gil, a hell of a script, and the casting is fantastic. I think your mind's gonna be blown when you see some of these performances and the way some of them look, you know, the way they sound, you know. At the table read, I remember at one point, this guy Nick Padani at the table read, I just remember looking at my script, hearing that Billy Crystal's part is up. I'm reading the script. Oh, Billy Crystal says this, and as he starts speaking, my head popped up, and everyone's head popped up, and you look over. When I say sounds exactly like Billy Crystal, that at one point I closed my eyes and went, can I pretend that that's Billy Crystal? And I could. And that's the same with damn near everyone in this cast. And you're like, my God, what a great job of casting he did, you know?
Yeah. Well, really excited about that.
Yeah.
So you wrapped on that. What's next? What's on the docket?
Ooh, do we announce? Okay. So season 2 of Unstable. So season 2 of Unstable on Netflix. I'll be a part of that cast with the fantastic Rob and Johnny Lowe. That was definitely fun to shoot. That's the set that my daughter hung out a lot, and she's obsessed with Johnny Lowe. Obsessed with him.
Yeah. I love the dynamic between those two.
Oh my gosh. You know what's so funny about it? And maybe I'm not spilling anything. That's how they really are. It's when I say amazing, like it was so refreshing to see. Johnny will be giving a line, then Rob will just walk over and go, I would say it a bit like this. And he's like, Dad, shut up.
That's the characters on the show too.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was in heaven seeing that, because it's great to see father and son work together on something like that at such a high level. Watching Damon Wayans Jr. is a good buddy of mine, and his father is iconic, obviously, actor, comedian. Watching them together is the same thing. It's like, man, that's the dream right there. You know what I mean? Working with family on something.
And it's funny because that is the trend right now. We've got a lot of these father-son or relationship shows going on. It's kind of cool to see because obviously they have chemistry because they lived it.
Exactly. You grew up together, and it's fun to watch to see how authentic they are, and they're not trying to pretend to be like this cookie cutter, 1950s family. You know what I mean? They're very much so how families are. You know what I mean? How you do speak sometimes to your parents and how they speak to you. And they're like, when I was a kid, if I ever act up, my mom would pinch my leg, you know what I mean? Or like an aunt walking down the street. If I said something slick, I just feel like pop on the back of my head. You know what I mean? And I go, that's family. That's life. Yeah. That's how it should be. It's not, everything isn't so, again, 1950s, Leave It to Beaver, Yeah.
Now, I am disappointed to hear that you didn't take over as Damon Wayans' son in episode 2 of their series, which I think would have been amazing.
They wouldn't cast me. They would, I've been begging Damon to hire me, and Damon, I don't know. He's given me enough jobs, according to him.
Yeah. So it would have been perfect.
Oh yeah. But I grew up on the Wayans, so in my mind, I'm a part of the family, whether they like it or not.
That's Fargo star Lamorne Morris. The FX series is available to watch on Hulu. And that's it for this edition of Variety's Award Circuit Podcast. Aaron Greenewald edited this episode, and Michael Schneider is the producer. Be sure to subscribe to the Award Circuit Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you download podcasts. Also, head on over to Variety.com and click on the Award Circuit tab to find the latest awards predictions and key races, as well as your daily fix of news, analysis, and reviews. For Jazz Tanke, Emily Longaretta, and Clayton Davis, I'm Michael Schneider, and we'll see you on the circuit.